the side effects of kids chewing xylitol gum was 40% less ear infections. And there were kids who couldn't chew the xylitol gum in Europe. So he's reading all these medical journals, and he thought, okay, the kids who went to preschool, they were getting like a drop or a gel with xylitol in it, and they had 30% reduction of sinus infections and ear infections. That's a side effect. We know that chewing xylitol will help reduce the stickiness of the plaque that's in our mouth.
Hello, and welcome to Legends of Longevity with me, Joseph Ence. I'm your host, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this journey towards living a longer, stronger, and more vibrant life. The podcast is about uncovering the secrets to longevity, things your doctor does not tell you, whether it's groundbreaking advancements in heart health, lifestyle tips to keep you thriving, or inspired stories of people who've defied the odds. Together, we'll explore the tools, techniques, and mindset shifts that can help you unlock your fullest potential. Whether you're here to learn how to enhance your well-being, support your loved ones, or just stay ahead of the curve in health and wellness, you're in the right place. Let's empower each other to not only live longer, but live stronger. Hello, everybody. This is Joe with Vasal Labs, doing our podcast, Legends of Longevity. In my travels at conferences, at events, I meet really special people who've been in the industry, people who have great thoughts, people who observe. Today, we're talking to Rhoda Pepito, who is a rep for XClear, or how do you pronounce it? Clear. Somebody had just pronounced it really differently a few minutes ago. And she's a hygienist. She's got a very valuable career as far as the people she's met, the people she's talked to, the lives she's changed. And we had a conversation a few weeks ago, and we're going to recreate some of the interesting parts from our experiences, talking about the world we live in today. So welcome, Rhoda.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. I'm excited to talk about our dinner conversation. It's very interesting to meet you.
Yeah, we have very different perspectives. And you were telling a story about, we were talking about COVID and kind of the mixed messages and that whole psyop. And you started telling me about the company you're in, about nasal saline rinses and how your boss had to put a fight up. Please tell me that story.
So I started working for Xylitol in 2010, and it's basically a hygiene company that involves xylitol. And what's cool about it is Dr. Lon Jones, who had patented this saline solution early on in the 90s, 1999 is when they patented it. He read studies on how the side effects of kids chewing xylitol gum was 40% less ear infections. And there were kids who couldn't chew the xylitol gum in Europe. So he's reading all these medical journals, and he thought, okay, the kids who went to preschool, they were getting like a drop or a gel with xylitol in it, and they had 30% reduction of sinus infections and ear infections. That's a side effect. We know that chewing xylitol will help reduce the stickiness of the plaque that's in our mouth, right? So what Dr. Lon Jones thought is, why don't we add that xylitol in a saline solution? And so he started to experiment and formulated this saline solution with xylitol, and he found in his clinical practice in Texas, he was trying it on kids because his granddaughter kept getting ear infections. So when he started to spray his granddaughter's nose after every diaper change, she eliminated her ear infections.
You lost.
What they found, that was 97% reduction of ear infections, direct application. So washing your nose will help reduce the adhesiveness of viruses and bacteria.
Wait, you're telling me the 6 kids I had, they all got little tubes in their ears. That may have been unnecessary?
Absolutely.
I'm angry. Keep going.
Joe, I was so touched when I first met Dr. Lon Jones. early on. And he talked about how frustrated his wife was having had the dad of the granddaughter that kept getting ear infections have learning difficulty because they couldn't hear. And what they used to do is just put them on antibiotics every 6 weeks. So my oldest was on antibiotics every 6 weeks from the time he was 18 months old, probably until we got tubes and adenoids done, right?
Wow.
They stopped giving them. Guess what that does to the microbiome in your body?
Eviscerates it.
Totally eliminates the good bacteria. I'm a hygienist. I brushed and flossed his teeth. I made his baby food. I breastfed him. I did all these things. This child had early childhood cavities. He had 3 fillings by the time he was 3 years old. A dental hygienist loser. Why? Because I changed the microbiome in the back of the throat. So strep is strep. So remember, when Dr. Lon Jones used the saline solution, what he found was 97% reduction of strep pneumonia, H. influenza, and M. catarrhasis by adding xylitol to the saline.
And xylitol is just a simple sugar derived from what?
We get our sweetness of the xylitol from non-genetically modified corn. Now, how they discovered you isolate it from birch trees, and that's when the Europeans in Finland decided to make sweetness out of their birch trees. Okay, that's how they extracted the xylan. But now we extract ours from non-genetically modified corn because it is more renewable source of energy. Our body doesn't know the difference between birch xylitol and corn xylitol. Xylitol. So the cool thing is, Joe, we produce a tablespoon of xylitol as part of the Krebs cycle.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You're learning lots from me,
body,
aren't
huh?
you?
I do.
Part of the ATP process. It helps aid in absorbing minerals in our body. When we eat strawberries, blueberries, any dark green leafy vegetables, we are consuming xylitol, but our body produces a tablespoon of it throughout the day. That's how natural this sweetener is.
Okay. So the doctors figured out, he's tested it on his grandkids and his kids, the xylitol on the nose, and he's like so there's got to be published research on this.
There is published research on the xylitol nasal spray. So let's fast forward. It's been in ENT magazines, adding xylitol to like the sinus rinse, the positive flow to help reduce the amount of sinus infections and adhesion of bacteria. Okay. There's been studies in medical journals. Again, it's the anti-adhesive effect. You're keeping your mucosal tissue on the inside of your nose moist, which is why we use it for chewing gum, because it moisturizes your mouth and reduces the stickiness of the bacteria that causes acid that produces cavities. Does that make sense? That's why it's so beneficial in the mouth. But think of the whole communal microbiome. So your mouth has to be clean, your sinuses have to be clean in order for you to stay healthy. That is the entry point of all bacterial and viruses, is the nasal passages. We tell our kids, wash your hands. But guess what? You're inhaling everybody else's spit. And I hate to say that.
That's true but gross.
I know.
Every sneeze is floating around the air.
Yeah, it's up to 12 feet.
I thought it was 6.
The projection of a sneeze. I mean, you know how that is. You can't try and do it. It's like, okay, how much of that? And there was even during COVID, they showed different mask type on how much aerosols go through even a surgical mask. So masks were not helping. Mm-hmm. I used to laugh because patients would come in during COVID with their mask, and I'm like, how long have you had that on? Because they had like food and lipstick. If it gets wet, it doesn't work. Think of even sanitation, Joe. This is what rinsing your nose with xylitol is. It's like sanitation. Most of the pandemics never stop because of vaccines. They stop because we improved our sanitation.
Yep.
Do you remember the story
Whoa.
of Dr. Emma Weiss?
Wait, which? Okay, you're barking up a pretty big tree right here.
I
The
know.
government, the
Yeah,
vaccines. I like the Spanish flu that was started in the Midwest of the United States, but we named it the Spanish flu, and all throughout. So what you're saying is like in the 1950s, 60s, polio. You're saying that the cleaner water and cleaner food had polio going down, and then the vaccine came right as soon as polio was almost at zero, and they said we solved it, we did it, and
we
then
did it
through the
because of the
newspapers.
vaccine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So there may be a little bit, if you read some books like The Real Anthony Fauci by RFK, or there's a lot of books on these subjects, but I don't want to steal
yeah.
your thunder there. Keep going.
No, I know. I anyway. This doctor observed 100 years ago how midwives who are delivering babies and washing their hands in between deliveries had less likelihood for those babies to die or the mothers to die because they were washing their hands.
Uh-huh.
He published these findings and he was mocked by doctors because doctors did not want to wash their hands in between delivering babies.
This was the guy before Listerine, right? The guy, like the first time he came up with the idea, the pathologies, the bugs, wash your hands. Took what? It did take 100 years after this guy till the industry picked up on it.
We put it, I'm trying to think of which the CDC finally recommended washing your hands as a good tool to prevent spreading the disease in 1985. 1985.
We
And it
discovered
was
that in
100
'85.
years. Yeah, that's when the CDC decided it would be brilliant if nurses and hygienists wash their hands in between patients.
Man, they are the cutting edge of medicine, aren't they?
Yes. So fast forward, you've got all these studies. You find more xylitol studies and its benefits in medical journals than you do dental.
Huh.
We published NIH studies that showed nasal hygiene will help reduce the spread of viruses by washing even just with saline or even just washing with baby shampoo. You know, putting baby shampoo in your nose and preventing the viruses and bacteria from entering.
I didn't expect the baby shampoo, but the saline makes sense.
Yeah,
It
the
all makes
saline, but
sense.
there's iodine, anything that's diluted just to wash off. Well, if you wash with your hands with baby shampoo, that'll help get rid of bacteria too, the adhesiveness of the bacteria. I
Yeah.
mean, so you don't want to kill everything, basically. So we published these studies on our website, and so did a lot of other saline companies like Neomed, Arm& Hammer. Whoever made a saline solution that was sold to the public, they asked us to take it down.
Wait. So give me a time frame and who asked you to take it down?
In 2020, XClear wanted to have emergency use of nasal rinsing to prevent the spread of COVID. And basically, Nate tells the story better. Basically, they said that I think it was the FDA we applied for to say, hey, let's use saline solutions, emergency use. They said it's over the counter, it's a cosmetic thing. We don't need to say that.
That's okay, because there's so much published research. Of course, you don't even need to say it.
No. But they wanted us to take down those NIH studies because we were promoting prevention in our website. And that's when Nate Jones decided, heck no. He was taken all the way to the Utah Supreme Court. And they just
Wait, so this guy's got regular research on his regular website saying wash your nose, it can help a lot of people. He even went as far, because he's trying to follow the rules. Hey, let's get emergency use so everybody knows about this. Mm-hmm. And the government came back and said, hey, take that off your website, first of all. 2, don't tell anybody about this. And 3, we're going to sue you and you're going to have to defend yourself for
Yeah.
wanting to make the world a better place. Is that all those 3
Yeah.
things right?
Yeah, those are about right. When you think about how God made our bodies, because it's an incredible immune system that he's created within us. So basically, the cilia needs to have moisture because it has a mucociliary fluid going through it. It's aqueous, so it has to be moist to allow the cilia to propel dust, pollens, viruses, and not stick and adhere, right? When you have cracked skin, isn't there more likely you get viruses and bacteria in your cracked skin? Well, you don't want the inside of your nose or the inside of your mouth to have all that dryness and crackness. You want your body to defend itself. So what Dr. Lon Jones, when he first started working on infants and children, he said basically every 4 hours, just spray their nose or after every dirty diaper change, because that's how often the fluid in our nasal passages is replenished. So you want to keep it moist. You don't want the nose to have a dry effect. Heating, air conditioning, that affects the moisture in our nasal passages because of what we're inhaling, right? So
Yeah.
especially dry climates.
So the membrane in your nose works best when it's moist.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. The body does
It
its
can
job.
slough off the nasty stuff. All right.
Right.
So
So yeah.
you guys got in trouble for telling the world about this healthy habit of rinsing your nose out.
Yes. And what's interesting is as soon as the FTC sued us, our sales skyrocketed. Basically, the public said, "What are you trying to
Patriots
tell
unite.
me? What are you trying to tell me?" So here's what is scary. If we lost, that means every vitamin supplement that you and I purchase would be under scrutiny of the government, regulated like medications. And so our EpiPen or our vitamin C might be $600 a tablet. I know it's ridiculous and far-fetched, but thank God it didn't go that far.
They were angling for going that far, though, weren't
Yes, they were.
If they caught no resistance, they'd keep going. Mm-hmm. I'm glad you guys fought. Like, seriously grateful that you fought.
I was duped early on, Joseph. I told you that story at dinner. I was duped. I had a really good friend who's an anesthesiologist. The wife is a good friend of mine. And the anesthesiologist never took a flu shot. Ever. He just would rather get the flu.
Yep.
To him, his own immune system. This is a guy who's intubating people, to put them under and da 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 da.
He's in the know.
He's in the know. I kind of called Gail, my friend. Hey, is Charlie taking the vaccine? I made up these names, by the way. So, yeah, he took the vaccine. And I went, it must work. He's a doctor.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, his ass would have been, he would have been fired. He would have been fired if he didn't take the COVID vaccine. So guess what little Miss Rhoda did? Stood in line for 5 hours to get the first vaccine because there's a line, and I'm thinking, okay, if I want to see my elderly parents, if I want to go back to work, got the first shot, and then I thought, okay, no. I've heard a lot, like my mom, when she got the shot, she would feel it. She would feel fluish. I never had any of those side effects.
All right.
None. No fever, nothing. P.S. Second vaccine comes, and I'm like, I guess I have to do this. Then I went, wait a minute. I found out that Gail had to get the vaccine too, even though she already had COVID, because Charlie would still be fired.
Our natural immune doesn't cut it with this one, huh?
No, apparently not. So she was forced to get the vaccine or her husband would be fired. This is what they did to the healthcare industry.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had a couple contracts where they were like, "Are you guys vaccinated?" And I was because it was a year after it started. And I hadn't met too many people that died. But I went with a wife, and I didn't make my employees get it because,
No,
our natural
I
immunity,
was
everybody
never.
already got COVID. But
Nobody, no, my kids, they didn't test for COVID. They didn't, I have three young sons, a 35-year-old, a 30-year-old, and a 28-year-old. And they all got COVID early on, but
yeah,
they're healthy. They survived. They were fine. But why would you ask them to get a vaccine if they already had it?
yeah,
Right.
it makes you think there's another motive for us all having to get vaccinated. And if you look at the
It's
birth
very
rates,
scary.
they're plummeting. The
The
turbo
birth rate, yeah.
cancers are skyrocketing.
Super cancers are scary.
Uh-huh. The myocarditis in the heart,
Yes.
that used to be really rare, and that's becoming pretty common.
Now,
People
in,
practically
in
stay
younger
alive.
people too. So I had an interesting conversation. One of the doctors that got introduced to Nate, and he wrote a couple of Dr. Peter McCullough. Are you familiar with him?
He's been a warrior.
Yes. So Peter McCullough talked to Nathan, and they talked about the xylitol, clear nasal spray, anti-adhesive, blah blah. He got it right away, so he did write it as part of his book that Peter McCullough had done. He explained to me how, depending on which you receive the vaccine, Pfizer is a smaller bottle, Moderna is a bigger bottle. Okay, the more air getting the vaccine out, the less potent it becomes.
So when they put the needle in and they do the air bubbles and pull it out, you're saying the last dose may be very ineffective.
Maybe, or I'm not sure the heaviness, the weight, I'm not sure. I just know that I didn't have the symptoms
Yeah.
that a lot of people, my mother could not raise her hand for 3 months from one of the vaccines. Thank God she's okay. She's 86 now, but still,
I'm
why
glad
are
she's
you
okay.
shooting these elderly people
Yeah,
with
without
vaccines?
compunction, no guilt. We're all doing the right thing. Propaganda was totally perfect. Everybody was in lockstep. All the news. Nobody trusts the news anymore.
No, no. Here's so when I started working. Here's what's interesting. I used to see the son, but now he lived in Michigan, and he was a graduate student. Just says, "Oh yeah, my son got the first vaccine, and he lost his vision for 24 hours." And what does Rhoda say? Rhoda says, "Did he report it? You know, the vaccine injury, the
Bears.
VAERS report. Let's report that. That's kind of like a side effect. Coincidentally, after you lose your eyesight for 24 hours." And she said, "Nope, I didn't report it because he got it back. He didn't report it." So we have so many unhidden or hidden side effects because people were not reporting the side effects because he came
Wasn't it?
back.
Wasn't it like they have a number for that? Like how many people don't report that? For every person who does report, we suspect 10 more had the same side effect but didn't report it. Is that
Right.
is that about what you're hearing too?
Yeah. That's scary to me.
That's wicked scary.
So I remembered I believed in vaccines because that was the only way my parents could immigrate us to this country. You had to have the list of vaccines you got as an infant from the Philippines to the States and in order to go to school. But when I think about it, I don't think my oldest did 3 shots at the same time. It was measles by itself. It was mumps. I mean, maybe I'm delusional. And they didn't combine all these vaccines or what, but it seemed to me when we got it, I'm older than you, it was one vaccine at a time, not 3 or 4.
Yeah, we had a really bad reaction in my family. I was a young father, young 20s. My first kid, he got the MMR when he was a year old. And 10 days later, we're at Costco filling up gas. I look back and he's drooling and staring at the ceiling. He was in a full-on seizure. He had to have an ambulance come. Luckily, a nurse was there. He was on barbiturates for months, like a really bad vaccine. And we still vaccinated the other kids. Like, we've been programmed pretty hard to avoid diseases that we don't need to avoid. Like the babies getting herpes shots. Like, these babies are not sexually active. They're not using needles. Why do they need the herpes? There's just so many that are unnecessary.
No, that's a shock to me. I didn't realize they were forcing that on infants. I mean, I do remember the HPV vaccine came out, and they started giving it to boys because they're the carriers of HPV. HPV can cause oral cancer, penile cancer, rectal cancer, vaginal cancer. So they encouraged the boys to get vaccinated. And I did. I vaccinated my sons before they went into high school because that was the quote time. They were, I think, 8 and 10 or 8 and 11. And they were so happy because they asked the receptionist, "We're not getting vaccinated today, right?" And the receptionist is like, "No, you're not." So, of course, the mom that I am, I had to ask because I have seen oral cancer patients in my chair. That is not something I want my children or anybody to go through, getting half their face removed because of it.
Yeah, it's serious.
And it's a virus that most of us shed. Again, our immune system, God made us beautifully, but who knows which one's going to turn on us at a dime. We don't know. Now that we've have all these strange, now that I have this stupid COVID vaccine 3 times, I don't know what I could be prone to. Cancer down the road. Don't know. Heart disease down the road. Don't know. We all don't know. The point is, when my boys said to the doctor, "We're not getting vaccinated," and I asked about HPV, and the doctor said, "Well, I think that's a good idea because the males are the ones that carry it." They went, "Mom, we don't want that vaccine," after the doctor went to go get the nurse. I said, "Honey, if you don't get the vaccine, you know what's going to happen. You might get cancer." "Well, it's okay. We'll remove it." I said, you know what? They're going to remove if you get it there.
Yeah, butthole cancer is not kind.
Where can I go? When's the first shot? I am true to the fact kind of mom. They had to face it. I'm like, I don't want that to happen to you, so I want to prevent it. Would I do it again? Probably not. I probably would have tested them to see if they had the virus already. Because there's 18 HPV viruses, and 4 of them can kill you.
It just occurred to me that...
Uh-oh. I'm making you think. It's a beautiful thing.
Oh, it hurts. So these kids are getting vaccinated. We think we're making the world a better place. But, like, didn't it just come out that the aluminum in the vaccine really kicks in the response? So if you're getting vaccinated from whatever, they put a little bit of aluminum into it because it makes your body go, I see what you're doing. Kill that whatever we're inoculating against. But the kids who eat peanuts that week develop severe peanut allergies for the rest of their life. And so that aluminum adjuvantant, which they use in the vaccines, may be the thing that tunes up the response. And if you have something during that week or two when your body's, processing that vaccine, that it tunes up. And I thought, man, that would be cool if that was public knowledge and you didn't have to go look deep in a research study to find it. And then I think about the ride we were taking on during COVID, all the fear, stay home, bunker down, interrupt your life, change all your healthy habits and bad habits. Well, you probably made your bad habits worse because you're home. And like, what do you think the purpose of all that was?
Control.
Go on.
It's
because nobody trusts the news anymore.
No. And it was very isolating to a lot of the elderly. I've had
dying alone.
friends.
Hang them high for making people die alone.
Yes, that is still one of the things that a lot of my patients come in, even though, they're like, I really don't want to take the next vaccine, but I couldn't say goodbye to my mom or my dad because they got COVID and I wasn't allowed to say goodbye. They died it just was so heartbreaking to hear the patients and their stories. Isolation, control. I'm not sure that was the answer though. There were countries that opened up their borders quicker and seemed to recover.
Yeah, it took like a year, didn't it? Year or two?
Yeah.
Like everything was way slowed down. Upset my business, upset most businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I was so thankful that Nate pays me to educate across the country. So we went from three of us going to 50 meetings a year to zip in that year. We couldn't travel. We were not allowed to travel. And you couldn't go to certain states unless you had the Vax card. I had to show my vaccine card to go to New York. And that's not even my territory. Even to go to the restaurant, here's my Vax card.
Oh yeah, put on that mask, we'll seat you, and then you can take it off for the rest of the night. You're fine.
It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. I had a mom whose daughter, when they went back to school, they would have choir practice, one person at a time. They introduced them to school. I'm like, okay, one person at a time. There'd be an hour in between their singing and rehearsing. Guess what? The daughter got COVID anyway. Why? Because the virus hangs in the air.
Nothing works. Like if it's a common
cold. 45 minutes. For 45 minutes, it can hang in the air. So we really needed to look at our air conditioning and filtration system. Again, sanitation. When were the schools changing the filters? When did they have any HEPA filters even? Did we even know that HEPA filters and blue lights and all this would help? That's so simple. My dad was in air conditioning and refrigeration, so dust, pollens, allergies, change a dang filter.
They've got infrared lights that kill every bug that flows through your
Right.
air conditioning.
Right.
They got, oh man. So a lot of my doctors are saying things like, and they're classy people, my trust in the CDC has been seriously eroded.
Do you think?
That's the classy way to say it. I don't trust them anymore. Not at all. Keep them away.
Well, I've had patients who've gone for 4 vaccines and they got COVID again. Even worse than before they got the booster, I got boosted, but I got COVID so bad I was home for 2 months. And I'm like, oh, are you going to get any more? I mean, I have to take medical histories all the time. I have to be sarcastic sometimes because, you're trying to tell me masks don't work? And I'm like, I think it works if you use it for the 45 minutes. And that's it. And you take it off and you change it every 45 minutes.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Nate on Tuesday.
Oh, he's a very interesting character. He really is full of science, and he's studied this inside and out. He's more scientific than I am. I like to have fun, but it's
I like the balance you strike.
I just think from personal experience and what it has, the Xlear nasal spray has helped me a lot. Twice a day for maintenance, every 4 hours if you're feeling fluish or if I'm with patients. I think I told you the story. My ex-husband started spraying his nose on Wednesday, the day after he was positive on Tuesday for COVID. I drove him to the ER on Saturday because he had to watch all the videos from the pulmonologists that did some of these studies that show it reduces your stay in the hospital if you use the Xlear nasal spray versus just straight saline. It reduces your hospital stay by half. So
That's
they
a big
tested
number.
big. I had to test negative twice before I could go to work on Monday. I slept in the same room ate across the same dining room with him. I never got the COVID. He spent 5 days in the hospital because his pulse ox was down to 89. Talk about COVID brain. Whew.
Oh yeah, go on about COVID brain, making people a little slower.
Yeah, very slow. Very slow. The memory, it took him a while to pick up his memory again. And the tiredness was constant, chronic. The fatigue, it was very interesting to watch him trying to go through the process of getting rid of the COVID virus, the actual virus itself.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the same people who put out COVID, I assume, also did fluoride, which is a little bit beyond our. But fluoride has been published that it reduces the IQ of our children by 10%. And fluoride has been pushed since I was a kid. I got the trays when I went to the dentist as a kid. Did not help, by the way. My teeth are garbage.
But
And
because you didn't do anything to change your microbiome.
maybe.
You didn't make your microbiome healthy, which xylitol does. It helps increase the good bacteria in there because it's a prebiotic. It crowds out the bad bacteria.
You're onto something there because the research on the gut biome is exploding. And just to set the stage, how sensitive it is, people who use mouthwash once a day double their risk of diabetes.
Heart attack.
Mouthwash. Yeah, why would you think that's related? I wouldn't, but apparently it is. And I can't get a straight answer from somebody who would know why, other than there's a lot of predigestion going on in your mouth. What's
Yeah.
your thoughts?
So a lot of our over-the-counter, and I'm guilty of this, I've recommended everything that kills the bacteria because it helps, and 99% of the bacteria kills it if you swish with it 30 seconds. Guess what? You're changing your microbiome.
Good
You're
and bad
getting
bacteria.
rid of the good bacteria. Why do we have so many people, A, with diabetes, B, heart disease? Because it can reduce high blood pressure by stopping mouthwash. There's studies on that. You can ask Nate on that. And also, gluten intolerant patients have been on rise. You're killing
Explain
the
that.
good. You're killing the good microbiome that helps digest wheat in your mouth. That's where our first digestive systems happen, is in our salivary amylase. So you're getting rid of that before it gets into the gut, which is why we have gluten intolerant patients.
Huh. How much do you think the glyphosate has to do with it?
Oh, it's in everything.
It is. Like,
It
truthfully,
is in everything. It's scary.
I'm
It's
to the point
scary.
I'm looking at farms in the Midwest that are using old grains and old methods. It's more expensive, but I don't trust the glyphosate anymore.
But
Because
it's, how do you get rid of it in the clouds, Joe? That's my thing. It's like, is there a filter when it rains on your parade? Even, the next farm, whatever, 100 acres away, and it rains. Is the rain just going to stay on you? No, it's going to move. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like we
yeah,
have to do something else. And yes, you're right. Here's what's interesting. I believe that my oldest son, out of 3 boys, he was the only one that got the fluoride drops. I thought they had, my girlfriend said that she thought they stopped the fluoride vitamin drops. But I remember talking to his pediatrician and said, oh, he just give him these fluoride drops because I'm not sure if your tap water in Lauderdale by the Sea has fluoride. I'm like, okay. So I did. Guess what? He's the only child of 3 boys, breastfed, made their baby food, all 3 of them, cloth diapers, that had ADHD.
I like people with ADHD because I got it pretty bad, but I'm
Me
sorry about
too.
that.
But he had learning difficulty and his IQ is less than the other boys because I had them
I'd be
all
angry.
tested. Yeah, I had them
Right?
all tested because I'm like thinking he needs more help than just, You know, I know his IQ is much higher because he can do some math problems that are not beyond his age group. So we did. We had him tested, and the this is in 1990s, okay? He was in kindergarten or first grade. The psychiatrist basically said to me,
Oh, you're gonna
if
make me
his,
angry again. Go ahead. Needs to be said.
yep, if you weren't Asian and you were black, he would be in gifted. But because I'm Asian, my half Asian son's IQ was not high enough to qualify as gifted. He's now 35. This wasn't 100 years ago that this was said. He's 35, so let's subtract 7 from that. How many years ago? 28 years ago? This is what the psychiatrist told me.
Like without any like conflict inside of him. Like this is just normal for her to say this to people. Hey,
I
if
guess
your
so.
kid was a different something, I mean, he's got all the tools, but if he was a little bit different, we could put him in this accelerated program that he probably deserves. But
He literally said, if you were black to me. I know. That was such a fun dinner, wasn't it, Joe? Sorry. I'm sure you'll lose audiences after this comment.
no,
but
I've
it's
thought
true.
about it a lot. I've thought about it a lot. Like, and you got to be confident in yourself to
Right.
understand what I'm saying. Like, the female superpower is nurturing. It's growing. It's getting the best out of people. It's loving. The best food, bananas. Like, you fed your kids. You gave them everything that you could come across. And, like, you're investing in this kid. Your whole lifetime is investing in this
Right.
kid. And then some yahoo gives him a 45-minute test, and he's like, no, if he was
Yeah.
different, I could do something. But although he's perfect the way he is, I can't do anything for him just because you're not in America. We're not in the caste system. We're not. The money's
No.
not supposed to be based on race or color,
No.
anything.
No. No.
You
And
pay your
it,
same widow's mite taxes that I do. Like, oh,
it's absolutely insane what how narrow-minded some people are. Let's just put it that way.
yeah. I
Because
hope this
the
person,
world
like,
is very big, but it's really small when you think about how many
yeah,
people you will touch in your lifetime. You know, it's really small.
it
Because
is. The
hey,
same
we
people
might,
come around.
yeah, yeah. There. I always find that there's reasons you meet people, and it's interesting because the first time Nate Jones and the national sales director came to Florida to look for a sales rep, they were thinking of doing dental hygiene meeting. They did the dental hygiene meeting in my component, in Broward County component. I was at a baseball game with my youngest son, so I didn't meet Nate Jones. Strike one. The second time I encountered Nate Jones was in 2010 in Daytona, big meeting. He sponsored the meeting and he gave all these the spry kits to help the hygienists at this meeting go find a patient and do before and after pictures and see how the spry products can change, you know, by disclosing, by painting their teeth pink and whatever, showing it reduces the plaque on their teeth. I missed him talking about that kit
Ooh.
because I was getting my makeup done for photos. And just by chance, I called the woman who put together the meeting so that I could pay for the next year. And she said, hey, if you want an opportunity, you should call so-and-so, Angie, the first hire, and talk to her about this new job with Clear. Just by chance. I was the third hire. I'm still here. I'm with them 15 years. And I like to say I'm the face of the company, although Nate doesn't like that.
I like that. Let me just hype you up for a minute, Rhoda. When you go to trade shows, there's different levels of professionalism. Some people leave their booth abandoned, or they go walking around, or they go join the. No, no, you sat there dutifully. You engaged every person that came by. You were polite, perfect, like, and you knew your stuff, which was really the fun part because I could pick your brain on some of these research studies or some of
Hmm.
these conflicting thoughts we have in medicine that we're not quite sure of. And you handled all of them. I was so pleased. And you, just being
Thank
with
you.
how long you been with that company now?
15 years.
That's a lifetime now.
I've been a hygienist for 40, so that is
Careful.
a lifetime. Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about prevention. There really is. You're going to have your predisposition of your DNA, right? So my dad is one of 13, and dad and all my aunts and uncles, by the time they're 60, had had pacemakers.
Oh,
Well, I'm 63, going on 63. Knock on wood, I don't have a pacemaker. But diabetes ran in the family, but later. So it's a good thing my dad still doesn't have diabetes. So you're going to have that predisposition. And I believe our bodies know how to turn off a gene that could potentially turn into cancer. But we haven't figured that out yet. What do we have to do to turn that gene off?
yeah, a lot of work on epigenetics, how what you eat when you're young, or even what your parents did, how big they were, how little they ate, has a huge effect on your metabolic issues, or too
Yeah,
much sugar, not enough. It's a very difficult dance to tease apart, isn't it?
it is. And because our food has changed over the years, it affects the archway of our teeth, the developmental stages of facial growth has changed. Our jaws aren't as wide as they used to be because we're not eating whole foods, which affects our nasal breathing, which affects your metabolic because if you're not breathing enough. I have never seen so many patients on CPAP in my life.
It's not just the obesity.
No, no. I mean, I
Hold on,
remember my first
you're putting
encounter
an
of
idea
diabetes.
together. So in the 1920s, there was a dentist who went around the world, and he's like, if I go to Africa, their teeth are perfect. They don't need their molars out. And these foods of commerce, he called it, the foods that you and I eat, are killing us. And
Yes.
so my kid goes to Africa, and he's like, hey, Dad. And we FaceTime, and I'm like, his teeth are perfect. He's like, everybody's teeth is perfect here, Dad.
Hmm.
Huh. So you're telling me that if I had fed my kids bone on a bone with meat on it and they had pulled, their jaw
Right.
would get bigger and they would not need their molars out, their wisdom teeth out. Is that about
Right.
what you're saying?
There's now a different change. They're changing whether or not to remove the wisdom teeth, but they still don't have enough room for wisdom teeth. I see a lot of patients that still do not have enough room. Yeah. If our diet were totally different, more chewing on hard foods with not rocks, but do you know what I mean? Not processed. We've eaten so many processed food that our body doesn't know how to chew and digest that food.
You're just trying to vilify Twinkies. That's all you're doing. You're trying to throw Twinkies out.
I'm
No, Twinkies and
anti-Twinkie
taquitos. Like there's all these foods that are just not real or natural. They're delicious.
because they
But
added more. What
huh.
did my Swedish au pairs used to say? Food in America is so different than in Sweden. I'm like, really? Yeah, you have less fat, but it's very sweet. Because honestly, I think that was the problem. We decided to take the fat out and we had to add the sweet to make it taste better.
Yeah, I am a big on as far as a diet, fat satiates you. You feel full when you eat fat. If you eat, but I mean, there's parents now feeding a stick of a cube of butter to their infant so they sleep through the night because the fat keeps them satiated longer. Yeah, it's
Yeah, the margarines,
not
the
good. The oils
not what
turning
you want
canola
to
oil
eat
into
now.
margarine.
The
Um,
impossible meat that we want to eat, right? Is
oh,
that real?
gross, gross.
I'd
Hey,
rather
so
have
what
real
diet do you
meat.
follow? You have the nicest smile, the cleanest teeth, and I'm sure it's the clear. But what diet do you follow or try to follow?
I like all foods. I was born in the Philippines, so I like all foods. I have eaten balut.
Do you have an adobo recipe?
I don't make it as good as my mom.
All right. That's one of my favorites. Like that meal is totally better the next day, the Filipino adobo.
Yes, yes. And it's usually if you can throw in sausage and chicken and I think it
Preach.
is apple cider vinegar is the secret, not white vinegar.
Let's write that down.
I made it with regular white vinegar and my mother went, eh. And my kids went, eh. What did you put?
Mom.
Mom,
We'll say.
regular vinegar that put on my floors to mop with. No, you have to get apple cider vinegar. And ever since then, it's changed. And of course, the soy sauce. Of
So it's
course.
very important. Very
Yeah,
important.
they're important.
All right. Any other topics or crazy things in medicine that you trust, your own personal view that you want to talk about that you think public would like, huh, I didn't know that was a thing.
I'm not sure.
All right, let's explore.
To think about that.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of things. Oh, so we were at this dental conference, and because we're not pulling on stuff and eating real foods, these dentists had a trays that you put in that move your jaw forward, so to increase your breathing capacity.
Right.
And I didn't think that was a thing, but it seemed to help a lot of people. Like the CPAP, I don't know, what were your thoughts on that?
My dad was, I think, in his late 70s before he got a CPAP, which is surprising because he's had high blood pressure since he's 30. I kind of think that maybe it has something to do with his airway at that time.
Uh-huh.
You need more docs who evaluate where their tongue positioning is, if there's any other structural issues in your sinuses that prevent you from breathing through your nose. The mouth doesn't have a filter. It doesn't warm the air.
That's true.
And you need nitric oxide when you're inhaling through your nose. That's what gets in and supplies the carbon dioxide and oxygen into your blood is the nitric oxide that you inhale through your nasal passages. Then it becomes oxygen, and I forget the whole mechanism of it. But this is all connected. And dentistry and medicine are finally trying to get on the same page because, the mouth is attached to the body.
A little bit. But you're saying the ENTs and the dentists aren't talking, coordinating like they should be.
Doctors and dentists aren't coordinating as they should be.
That's fair.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember I used to hear they're not really doctors, dentists. I'm like, really?
Drill and fill, my friend. Drill and fill.
No. Why are we drilling and filling the hardest surface in the body?
Because the sugar we're feeding our population is creating nasty bacteria that leaves acid poop all over our teeth.
It's not, I mean, there's people who don't eat sugar and still, because they're killing
Yeah, where
all
does those cavities come from if they're not eating sugar?
if they're not eating sugar, they killed all the good microbes.
Oh, so it's the mouthwash and the antibiotics and like every parent knows that if you give your baby antibiotics or older people or whatever, they get thrush. Like you kill all the balance and harmony in your body, fighting off that fungus. And that's why little old kids and little old ladies get thrush, all over their body. And like we're dropping these nuclear bombs on our kids every time they have a cold, every time they have an infection. And it can't be adding up in the right ways. And then disinfecting our shopping carts is probably too far the other way as well. because you need a certain level of exposure for your body. I mean, it's got to exercise. Your immune system's got to be working on stuff. If you're living in a sterile environment, you're not.
You can't. You can't survive. We're not in a bubble. We do need bad bacteria once in a while.
Hmm. Hmm.
My oldest, I boiled everything. My middle one, I just kind of licked it and gave it to him. The other one ate dirt.
Yep, exactly my pattern too. First kid, we boiled the pacifiers. By the third kid, you're just sucking on it and put it back in his mouth, which is probably the optimal way to do it because you're sharing your bacteria with the kid, which we need to do. And like the science on husbands and wives having very similar gut profiles of bacteria is very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And
is.
my favorite research was that your body tunes up to the food that you eat. If you're on a Asian food diet or a lettuce, whatever, your body will make more of that bacteria to digest that food and get more nutrition out of it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, God's created an incredible hu body for humans to chew and absorb those nutrients. But don't get rid of everything that absorbs those nutrients.
Now, the more we're learning about the body, the more complex it is, the more of a miracle it is that I can feel things, that nerves travel at the speed of light to my brain, that oxygenation and food and the balance and harmony of the bacteria, and then my own free will to master it all is just,
Yeah.
I'm grateful for God.
Eczema is an outward sign of asthma. Did you know that?
I did not go on. Eczema, which is supposed to be what, too little zinc in our skin?
Our skin is the largest organ, right?
Uh-huh.
So the environment, whatever it's the oxygen that we touch, it's the lotions, it's the water, we absorb it through our skin. It's the largest organ that we have. And here's what's interesting. My oldest son, and I love talking about my boys, my oldest son had asthma. My younger two had eczema, the outward sign of asthma.
Did they develop the asthma?
They didn't develop the asthma at all. They haven't developed the asthma. He had the asthma, but remember, he had chronic sinus infections and ear infections. Asthma runs in my family. My brother had it. Eczema runs on me because I had eczema.
Uh-huh.
So here's what's interesting. We talked about the gut microbiome. My dermatologist, this is post having 3 kids, going through all that, I kept going in because I kept getting eczema and he kept giving me more topicals and he got tired of seeing me every 6 weeks because I needed another topical. I was wearing cotton gloves underneath my gloves. This is before clear, underneath my regular gloves in order to work clinically because my skin would split on the tips from the
Oh,
bad eczema and I would itch like crazy. He said, I need you to go to Whole Foods or whatever, the natural market, and get this probiotic. Do 3-2-1. I said, what is 3-2-1? 3 tablets of this probiotic for a week straight, 2 and then 1, and give your gut a rest. I don't see my dermatologist as much as I used to
like
because I
that
was
solved it.
that solved it. The good
Wow.
bacteria. So now if I start to have, because I still work clinically one day and some of the gloves, I'm very sensitive, high maintenance
Yeah.
hygienist, have to have a specific glove, specific mask so I don't break out. I have to take more probiotics when I have a little tiny itch and I find that formula, if I double up or, do more for the first week, taper off, my gut behaves and my skin doesn't. So it's fascinating. Prebiotic, probiotic, they all work synergistically,
I wouldn't have expected that. A probiotic.
helping my skin.
Which one was it?
It's the acidophilus plus FOS Jarrow, I think.
All right. Yeah, we took a
That,
ton of those when we were pregnant. We were pounding the acidophilus.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it's a good thing for your gut microbiome. It does. Yeah, they do now fecal transplants for people who don't have good microbiome, but I'd rather take a probiotic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's talk about the fecal transplants because it's so gross and exciting. So how do they neutralize your guts when they want to do a poop transplant?
I don't know. I just know for those who have that really bad, oh gosh, what's the name of that? Where you
Autoimmune
just
issues.
C. diff. C.
Oh
diff.
yeah.
When you get C. diff, and you get C. diff a lot if you're in nursing homes and rehab centers, by the way, it's a plethora for giving you C. diff. Because you're on antibiotics if you break your hip or you break your knee, you're on antibiotics, so it changes your whole microbiome. If they don't get rid of the bad C. diff, they have to put the good bacteria back into by a fecal transplant. That's how they stop you from having the C. diff. I don't know how they do it. I don't want to ever find out because that sounds absolutely horrific to me, but it helps
Yeah.
people not die. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we should probably have a kissing booth in the rest homes to get that good bacteria around. But yeah, like if they want to do a fecal transplant, they give you antibiotics to nuke your whole gut biome. You start back at zero. And so if you're doing a poop transplant, then you get, somebody else's bacteria and it proliferates fast. It gets around fast.
So apparently, if you have twins and one is obese and the other is thin, you can fecally transplant the skinny one's poop into the fat ones and they will lose weight.
Ah, that's amazing. I hadn't read that, but I believe it. Right? Like the older I get, the bottom line is like finding balance and harmony through bacteria is did not expect that.
Well, I mean, think about it. We really have killed, pesticides have killed everything, good and bad. So organisms that didn't used to live are now superseding the good organisms that should be living on those plants. Plants aren't supposed to live forever. They're supposed to have a die period, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I want to think about that. Like with all the spraying we do, the aluminum they spray in the air, the barium sulfate, with the crops, all that we spray on the crops, like the Mississippi River is like unbalanced and blooming with algae all the time because all the runoff from all the farms over all of America is causing issues. Like,
In Florida.
amen. They do that too.
Yeah. We get the red tide, they call it, and it kills all the
Yeah,
fish and it smells like dead fish all the time.
disappointing.
We're changing the ecosystem. We have to do a boa constrictor hunting season in the Everglades.
Actually, sign me up for that. That sounds awesome. Gators used to be apex, right?
Yeah, now the boa constrictors are eating them. So you need a good ecosystem balance. And how do we do that? How
Yeah.
do we do that? How do we clean? I think it's great that you want to farm. My grandfather was a farmer, so he had a method of what he planted in each section. So it wasn't the same plant that he tilled. He'd give that one a rest. This soil gets planted on the next crop, and then this soil had a different crop.
Yeah.
He figured that out as a farm. But now it's all about let's eat strawberries all year long because it's always strawberry season. Sarcasm.
Right? Like our need to have everything now all the time. And like, didn't you appreciate oranges when you were a kid at Christmas? Like more? Because it was so rare?
Yeah. Apples. Apples was only an apple season in October, November in New Jersey. We'd go apple picking. It wasn't all year round.
Okay, I found this out by accident, but the average age of an apple at the grocery store is over a year old now. They're so good at keeping them from rotting and storing them that the average apple is over a year old at your grocery store. How crazy is that?
Well, that's scary. So how old is the meat that we're eating?
Oh, don't even get, and like the FDA has to inspect 90% of it before we can buy it. Like, nah, I don't trust you guys anymore.
Here's what was interesting. My mom couldn't figure out why she had issues whenever she visited me when the kids were younger. Because my ex and I would only make chicken breast. And guess where the hormones were shot at? On the chicken breast. So she
No.
would have issues with her gut and itching and because we were only serving breasts. We didn't have dark meat. We didn't get a whole, rotisserie chicken, a whole chicken. My brother would make a turkey in Spain. This is interesting. 12 pounds was the biggest turkey they could get in Spain.
It's a baby turkey.
That's like a chicken for us.
Yeah, that's a tiny guy. But they don't fill it full of the accelerants and the steroids.
Antibiotics and yeah. You're going to have to grow your own chickens.
I'm close, yo. I'm close. Don't make me build a coop again.
With the really good eggs. With the really good eggs.
Yeah, the eggs that are so good they make your tongue itchy.
But what you're feeding your chickens, you'll know. But again, I have we have to do we have to get rid of all the pollution before you could think you could grow food safely. Unless you had a greenhouse and you controlled the water that was coming in.
All right. Just as a reference for how toxic our environment is, there was a farmer up in Maine who got like human poop from the manure place, like wherever they sell it after, or wherever our poop is processed. He's like, I'm going to put it on. That'll be the most organic thing for the plant. He put it on his field and then got tested for PFAS, like all these chemicals that are in our poop. He is not able to sell his food with the organic label because his field is now too polluted to grow organic food.
Wow.
Yeah, from our waste. We can't eat. Like, that's a big, big red flag for me.
Wow.
And this guy was crying. He's like, my farm is now worthless and I can't do anything with it.
That's a shame. I mean, who would think that human poop would be that?
That toxic. Yeah. I thought he was doing the right thing. Bah. And like, yeah. And they actually burn that poop to kill all the bacteria, but the plastics, the PFAS, all that was still in it.
Do you remember how is it Crest is Procter and Gamble, isn't it? P&G.
Yep. Yep. PG&E.
They used to put these inert plastics in their toothpaste, in their soaps. Do you remember the blueness in it? The
Oh
blue in the
yeah.
toothpaste. I used to find those in healthy gum tissue that my patients used to use the Crest toothpaste. I would go and scale underneath their gums and see this little tiny blue plastic in
Those
their
little
gum.
microbeads they put in there. No way.
Yes. Lots of 3 or 4 or 5 patients for a while. I think they removed them.
You're
I
like, hey,
can't.
is there glitter in your toothpaste?
Yes. So think about we swoosh, it goes into the drainage. The frogs and fish were eating these blue beads. It's showing up in our gut because we're eating the fish and or frogs.
The ecosystem goes round and round, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, these
Interesting.
microplastics are a problem. Many of my physicians have said, did you read the research study on there's a plastic forks amount of plastic in your brain alone? There's microplastics found in men's scrotums, like 90 something percent of men have it in them. And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Yeah, water bottles. Yeah, plastic cups. But then one of my doctors, my own personal doctor, said, did you know that when you deep fry in cottonseed oil, the potato actually makes plastic? It renders plastic because it's such an unnatural oil, and the potato, that's one of the sources of the plastic we're getting is French fries. And I thought that was too scary to look up.
Huh. Interesting. But why use cottonseed oil? Why not use? peanut oil or
It lasts forever. The cottonseed oil in the 90s when McDonald's switched it out, it was a business decision. They were like, the tallow would go bad every day. It would burn, once you cooked it all day. But the cottonseed oil, it used to be engine lubricant. So, like, no big deal. It was an engine lubricant in World War II. So they figured out that if they put it on the deep fryer and you got a really good filter, you can keep that oil for a long time and it doesn't burn. It's so stout. And the cottonseed oil reduces testosterone 40% in mice. I cannot find the human studies. But if you're wondering what happened to America between the 1970s and now, the oils, the seed oils, the corn syrup are your two biggest culprits. Computers aren't helping either.
no. And I think my oldest said to me, "Mom, do you know you eat a credit card worth of plastic per week?"
Per week?
Per week, we eat a credit card full of plastic. I don't know where he got that study, but he's my conspiracy theorist.
Well, tell them to join the club because it's all real.
Yeah. Yeah.
A credit card of plastic every week. We're pooping out and putting in the food back into the environment. There's no need for that, right?
No, why do we need all that plastic to eat? Again, what are we cooking with? Is it still we don't have any more cottonseed oil. I use avocado oil. I use
Yeah. Like, I love water bottles because they're portable and disposable, but that can't, heating that up in the sunshine and then drinking it can't be perfect either.
not with the PBAs.
Yeah. Got to be careful.
The bisphosphonates are not good.
All right. We've been going for 70 minutes, Rhoda. We could probably
Sorry.
go longer if we wanted to, but
Thank
it's
you. I
Friday.
appreciate it.
It's
It is
5:15 your
Friday.
time.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
I love it. I love real people. I love genuine. I love the truth. Thank you, Rhoda.
Yeah.
You're valuable.
Thank you so much, Joe. Have a good weekend.
You too. Talk to you later.
Bye.